scene here. I want him to have him running across the scene right here. So what I would do now is I'm going to access your library. And when you're accessing your library, we click on the library tab here to view all of the different character templates. So within my library, I have a lot of characters in my library. And you want to ensure that you click on Stage Library. Now your Stage Library is always locked by default. So for example, if I was to select a character and press the delete button, a warning message would come up that says Toon Boom Stage Library is read only and I won't be able to do. This is a safety mechanism to prevent animators or anybody else from accidentally deleting character rigs. Now, if you want to add content to your library, you have to unlock the stage library in order to add stuff to it. If you look closely at your stage library here, you notice that there's a padlock there. You're going to right click on stage library. You're going to click right to modify. What that enables you to do, I can select any one of these character rigs and I can delete them. And they will be deleted from my computer. I can also go into them and edit. So instead of like, I want to make modifications to a character rig, either I want to add deformers, I want to add drawing substitutions, I can edit the individual character rigs. What you will also notice is that character rig, there's a file extension at the end known as .tpl. The .tpl stands for template. And that is how Toon Boom Harmony identifies your different character rigs. All of the characters that I have in here are, well, this is an exception here. If I click the play button here, it shows a preview of I saved the animation template in my library. But for the most part, they're just stationary character rigs that you can animate over time. Now, in order to save an animation template in your library, make sure that you right click and right to modify. So now I can add the new content. You're going to look for the layer. So notice that on the John layer over here, notice that we have keyframes. The keyframes showing us that we have animated content along our timeline. Now we want this animated content to be saved in our library. What we do is that you select the John layer, you click and hold on the John layer and drag it over into your library. And it's going to generate a thumbnail for it. And it will give you the opportunity to template. So right at the moment now, it's currently loading. The reason why it's taking a bit of time to load is because it's loading in the animation into the library. To give it some time, it's almost there. All right, once that is done, notice that it comes up with a default name that says John _ master pp part. But I want to rename. You don't want to trouble your extension. You want to make sure that your extension remains at .tpl. What you want to change is, I'm going to name this John Run Animation. Or John, you can name it John Run A to B. Yeah, we can. I'm going to just name it for argument purposes. Just name it John Run A to B. So I know that this is a animation template. And what we do is that we click OK. Now, when I click on the John, notice that this is separate from the profile view of John here, you know. So this here is the John Run A to B. And you look in the preview window. You'll notice that you see a little play arrow here. When I click on this one, you notice that you're not seeing any play animation here. But when I click on the John _ Run AB, you see some little marks here. Those are indicating that this template has keyframes on it. And the play button here, enables you to do a preview. So when I press the play button, notice that it does a little, I don't know if you can see it on your screen, but actually the it's doing a preview right here. So now my run animation is stored in my library. So if I was to go ahead now and close, I'm going to close this scene. And for the discard, so I'll close this. This scene here with the living room is an entirely different scene. And I say, all right, I want that run animation to be imported into this scene. I simply go over to my library tab and I scroll down here to my stage library. And so whether you close Toon Boom or reopen it, your content will always be displayed in your library. And you're going to scroll down and you're going to look. You'll notice that you'll see well, let me do, all right, I know why it's not showing. Because I had this scene open the same time I was creating the template, so it's not showing the update. So what I have to do is right click and go on to refresh so that it refresh the library because it was added to it and the update wasn't there. When I scroll down now, there we go. Now we can see that the John run AB template animation is there. Now all we have to do is just simply drag the template into our scene and voila, we have a run animation of the character in a different scene. Now you will notice that the character is very small in size. Now this is not a problem. We can simply resize the character. Now, how you go about resizing your character? Now, if I was to go ahead and say, all right, at the moment, my animate button is on. So let's say I select all the way up to my master peg. My animate button is on, and let's say I want to resize this character, and I go ahead and I scale up the character like that, and then I say, okay, I'm going to move him over here. This is what's going to happen. Look at what's going to happen. No, you see that now? Notice that the character is now, it will start off big, and now he goes back to being very small. What happened right there is that you've only made changes to keyframe number 1. That is because your animate button is on and it allows you to individually edit these keyframes. So I'm going to undo that. So now our character is back to size. We want to resize the character where all of the changes will be applied where the changes will be applied to all of the keyframes along our timeline. We have to ensure that our animate button is off. And this running man symbol here with the yellow circle, that is our animate button. We click on that and you will notice the character is now showing as animate button is off. And if I was to go ahead now and resize this character to its appropriate size, and I was to reposition him, let's say he starts off screen, and now, so I position the first keyframe and resize it. When I scrub through along my timeline, notice, well, I'm going to move him up a little bit more. Notice that the changes apply to the rest of the keyframe. So that is the purpose of turning your animate button on and off to apply changes to all of your keyframes. So now we have, so that is how you go about importing an animation. So now we say, all right, we have a run animation already. All we need to do is to transition that run animation into a jump. Now there are several reference materials that you're going to use. Give me a moment, I'm going to share another item on the screen. look at your screen right now, you're seeing a reference image that was taken from the Richard Williams survival kit. Now, the one that I first the first demonstration of the key poses with him doing this kind. So he's running towards the something and he's jumping and then he lands and then pretty much he runs off again. However, what I did was to actually crop out this part of the image to show him running and then jumping and landing here. There's another variation from the survival kit where you show that the character is doing a different kind of run. He's now leaning forward into it. So instead of him like going up and then landing down into the antic, then shooting off, this variation shows him running, leaning in, and then pushing himself. And he lands right here. So the top, we're going to utilize the top variation here. So what we're going to do, we're going to keep the first, so the run animation that you would have imported into your scene, you would have imported that animation into the scene, and then you can cut off, like in terms of the keyframe information. I'm going to turn on back my animate button. Here we have the character running. So he's running, he's running. So up to frame, let me look at the reference. Right, keyframe 1 to 20. So I'm going to highlight this key because remember, you know, we just want a portion of the run to help him transition. So I highlight all of that keyframe, press the -KF button, and it delete that keyframe there. So what we have right now, we just have the initial part of the run. You know what? I'm going to turn off this image background. I'm going to add a color card. And we can add, what you can do, you can add a background. Well, you can add what do you call it, an obstacle. I'm going to use a rectangle as an obstacle and to give it a paint color. You know, just give it a color, you know. Can give it maybe a just paint it black for now. So in other words, it might jump over a box. There's something here. Yes, there's a keyframe right here. Because I realize that he's tweening down here. So I need to delete that keyframe right there. Right. And extend the duration of that scene. Right. So you can add like an object. Because remember, you know, you want something to kind of guide you that he's jumping over object. And what you're going to do, you're going to utilize. Notice you show a character going into a takeoff. You have the hang time, you have the landing, you have the settle. Now, I'm going to go on to Moodle to show you some. All right, so I'm currently on Moodle now. I'm going to go down to cluster 5. All right. So you're going to go produce, because I did not go ahead and create another assignment link. This activity, it is pretty much practice to help you guys to refine your skills. So you're going to click on the produce interactive animation runs. That is the same one where we're doing the runs from. And you're going to scroll down and you're going to look into the resource section here, where there is a where you're going to download the image run jump, and you're going to download this video here that's called Run Jump Guide. It's a MOV video. And I'm going to see, so that's where you're going to download. So you're going to download those 2 videos. Well, you're going to download the image where you're going to need to pause those, but I'm going to show you what the run jump guide video is. So I'm loading up that video now. All right. Indicate to me if you see the video on your screen. I don't know if it's sharing that. Hold on, let me see if I can. I don't think it's sharing, you know. Let me see. Here, content. Alright, yeah, you weren't seeing. Are you seeing the video now? Like some kind of video with the character? Indicate to me in the chat. So what we have here is it's not a video of the animation, but what I did was to do a video showcasing all of the key poses. So you notice that the first key pose here, where you have him in a run pose right here, keyframe number 1. Then keyframe number 3 shows him in that pose. Keyframe number 6, this happens at keyframe number 6. 7, this happens at 9. It goes down a little bit at 10. And it goes down more into a squash at 11. 13, that's the takeoff pose for the jump. This number 15 is a breakdown pose. Number 18 is the hang time pose. Sorry, please give me a moment. I get in a phone call. So what we have here is the hang time pose. And by the way, I didn't have the timing information because from the survival kit, Richard Williams did not provide the timing information for this jump. Like the one that I was doing from the PowerPoint where the character is standing and he's now going into that jump, there's timing information for that. But when I consulted the book and I was looking at the image that shows the character running into a jump, there wasn't any timing information that was there. What I had to do now was to experiment and figure out what timing would be appropriate for the character to jump. So after trial and error, and by the way, if you know, I can change, if you click on the little timestamp down here, you can change from standard to free. So it tells you, notice you're seeing 13 and you're seeing, actually put the number, actually numbered the key poses so that you know what key pose the jump, what position that occurs at. So I'm actually using my left and right arrow. Notice over here, you see the frame number changing. So I like to use QuickTime Player to study videos. All right, so keyframe number 1, that happens at 3, that happens at 7, 9. So this is the hang time. Notice that I move from 18 to 23. So you should get a transition right there. And there's another principle of animation that needs to be taken into consideration when you're trying to pull off this animation. Remember the principle of arcs. Like, for example, for this character to successfully jump over this object, he has to be moving more on an arc to jump over. You don't want it to look like a triangle or anything. You want to